Well, hello, friends, and welcome once again to another episode of the 360 Experience podcast. I am your host, Tim Braheem, and today I'm also going to be the guest teacher as well. So I'll be riding solo and talking to you about the ever important subject matter of time and task management, which is, of course, a very ubiquitous subject matter. It applies to anyone. How we choose to manage our time, what we choose to say yes and no to has everything to do with our success in our business, regardless of our vocation and in our life. Now, before we get into the topic of time and task management, which I'll be able to cover in some detail in this episode of the 360 Experience, I won't be able to go into the type of granularity that I'd like to, but I could tell you about how you can get some resources for that here in just a moment. I wanted to start by saying, thank you very much for being a subscriber to this show. We thrive on subscribership. If you are not a subscriber, it would be really wonderful if you became a subscriber on your favorite podcast channel, whether it be Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. And if you like this episode, please forward it. I think you'll find that this episode will cover a subject matter that is really, as I said, ubiquitous and for everyone, regardless of their business vocation. I want to also thank our sponsors. This show is sponsored by the Loan Atlas. And those of you that are members of the Loan Atlas, thank you for being such. And you know from being a member of the Loan Atlas that there's a tremendous amount of resources contained within that educational coaching platform that myself and 18 other faculty members are responsible for facilitating. The Loan Atlas is a treasure trove of resources on virtually every topic that you can think of that would require you to master to be successful as a mortgage professional. And of course, time management is one of those subject matters. And we go into a ton of detail in the Atlas. Specifically, myself and my colleague, Julie Wykes, teach a wide variety of classes on the subject matter of time management and provide you with resources and tools to effectively manage your time correctly. You can click on the link in the show notes below to find out more about the Loan Atlas. And I want to encourage you, if you're not a member, to schedule some time for a demo, and we can tour you through the platform and you can evaluate whether or not it's something that could be a great resource for you to grow your business and your overall life experience. Additionally, the other sponsor of our show is Leadership 360, which is my coaching program that I have been conducting along with my colleagues, Julie Wykes and Scott Bertone, for 13 years. It is our seminal coaching platform. It is a brilliant curriculum, a one-year program that all of the members of the faculty of the Loan Atlas have been through. Some of the top mortgage professionals in the country have been through this program. And if you're interested in learning more and exploring the possibilities of becoming a private coaching client of mine, this is the only one-on-one coaching that I actually do is within the Leadership 360 Signature Program. Then click on the link included in the show notes, fill out an application, and we'll set up some interviews and get to know you better, and you can get to know us better, and we can explore the possibilities. So without further ado, we're going to dive deeply into the subject matter of time and task management here in the 360 Experience. So there are two verticals in my mind to the subject matter of time management, and they're equally important. The first vertical is the one that many of you have probably pondered in the past, which is what I call the tactical aspects of time management. What platforms you manage your time by, how you organize yourself, how you know what you have to do. And that is certainly important, how you manage your calendar, et cetera. And we're going to get into that in this episode of the 360 Experience, but we're going to wait and get into that a little bit later. The other vertical that most don't really evaluate is the subject matter of mindset and the subject matter of our decision-making process. So we don't really manage time. What we manage is our decisions of how we choose to use our time. Each and every one of us has the exact same amount of time every day, 24 hours. And the people that are effective in managing their time are the ones who are very clear on what their hell yeses and their hell no's are in their business and in their life. And maybe more importantly, they ask themselves the question, why is it that I'm saying yes to something that is clearly a hell no? We're going to get into that in a little bit of depth here to start off this episode of the podcast. So The battle between our ears is always an important battle that we are waging, as you've heard me say before, and it really applies to the subject matter of time and task management. So again, we're managing really what we choose to say yes to. I mean, I'm sure that you've had this experience before where, you go through your day and the day ends and you feel defeated that you didn't get the things done that were important to you that you wanted to get done. And you did a whole bunch of things that maybe you wish you wouldn't have engaged in. And that begs the question, why? Why did you choose to abort the things that were important that you got done or that you get done? And why did you choose to do a bunch of things that really at the end of the day didn't enhance your life or your effectiveness in your business and didn't really move the needle? So you've probably heard this metaphor before, but I'm going to go ahead and recite it now. And I'm going to paint a picture. And it comes from Stephen Covey's terrific book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Covey paints this picture of, a person comes out to the stage and they have a table. And they have a fishbowl on this table and 3 boxes. And in one box are some rocks, and another box are some pebbles, and in the third box are some sand. And if I were to dump all of the sand into this fishbowl, and then dump the pebbles into the fishbowl, and then start placing the rocks on top of the sand and the pebbles, in this particular example, not all of the contents fit in the fishbowl. But if I were to reverse the order, and first put in the rocks, same amount of contents now, same size fishbowl, put in the rocks first, then pour in the pebbles and they filtrate their way around the rocks into the cracks of the rocks. And then I pour in the sand and it fills all the gaps between the rocks and the pebbles. All of a sudden, the same contents fits into the same fishbowl. But because we put them in a different order, it was effective. When we put them in the other order, it wasn't. So what's the metaphor here? Well, the metaphor is this, is that the rocks are the important things that you need to get done in your day. If you are in the business of sales and you get paid to prospect for business and nurture existing relationships, those would be defined as rocks. Pebbles are the things that are important, but not mission critical, but they do need to get done, but they are not going to ultimately move the needle. And then the sand is all that stuff that comes at you all day long, the emails, the text messages, the questions from work colleagues, the questions from customers that maybe at the end of the day don't need to get done at all, or if they do need to get done, could be done by somebody else. And the problem is that because many of us are making our decisions based upon our emotions, we're choosing into saying yes to things that are sand categories or pebbles categories, and then the day ends and we never got to our rocks. Now, I'm sure that many of you can relate to that. And what that creates is a very self-defeating experience. You go into your day with all the best intentions, you have your list of things that you need to get done, and then the world gets turned on and starts coming at you and you start reacting. And you start choosing into things that you shouldn't be choosing into. If you're in the mortgage business, to use that as an example, because so many of our listeners are, maybe you're engaged in too many things involved in your file that you could have somebody else do for you or didn't really need to be done right in this moment. And you keep setting aside prospecting for new business, consulting with clients, cross-selling and talking to potential referral partners like realtors, accountants, and financial planners, and you never get all of that done. And we chase these shiny objects. So the question begs, why do we do that? Like, why do we abort the things that we have a strong intention to do and choose into things that are not a hell yes and are ultimately a hell no? And the answer is one word, and that word starts with the letter F, and the word is fear. So we're human, and our desire to be liked, the desire to be in favor, the desire to be approved of, the desire to make sure everything gets done can kind of tend to override our strategic thinking and our critical thinking abilities. So oftentimes we say yes to things that are not A+ priority because we're afraid that if we don't say yes to it, that maybe somebody will be disappointed in us, or that it won't get done correctly, or that it won't get done in a manner that really moves the needle for us in our experience. But ultimately, this evaluation of what are really the important things, what are really your rocks in your day is super, super important. So we can look at this just simply through the lens of ROI, return on investment. And there's an exercise that I want to encourage you to put yourself through, which is to decide how much money do you want to make in the next 12 months? We're going to look at this through the lens only of business here for a moment, and then we'll get into the personal in a little bit. So let's hypothetically, I'm going to pick some simple round numbers and say that you want to make $200,000 in the next 12 months. And then the next question that I would ask is, how many hours a week do you want to work? And let's say you say, I want to work 40. Okay. And then I will ask you the question, how many weeks vacation do you want to take per year where you're not working at all? You're off the grid. You're with your family. You're enjoying yourself. And let's say you pick 2, being super conservative. Hopefully it's more than that. But for the simplicity of math, what we've just defined is this, is that you want to work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks out of the year. That's 2,000 hours. And you want to make $200,000 in the calendar year. So that's very simple. We're operating off a mathematical formula of earning $100 an hour. Okay. Now, we are all paid by the hour, whether our career actually pays us an hourly rate of pay or whether you're an entrepreneur that is self-employed. If you're an entrepreneur that's self-employed, then your hourly rate of pay is chosen by you. That's where it gets tricky. The successful people in entrepreneurial businesses and sales and the mortgage business and the real estate business, et cetera, are successful because they're vigilant in governing their time. They're vigilant in governing what they choose to say yes and no to. They understand the value of their time. And in this particular case, the value is $100 an hour. So a great exercise is first to evaluate your hourly rate of pay and understand what you seek to make per hour. And then from there, we want to take an inventory of all the things that we're engaging in on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. Get to the granular detail. One of the exercises that I highly recommend is to log your time. Take a couple of weeks, 5 days a week, and every 30 minutes, write down what you just chose to say yes to. This is going to surface to the forefront some of your decision-making failures and successes. So successful people choose to say yes to things that would support the hourly rate of pay that they're looking to earn. Let me say it again. Successful people evaluate what their hourly rate of pay is and choose to say yes to things that would support that hourly rate of pay. And they steer clear of the things that would lower their hourly rate of pay. So something that wouldn't warrant $100 an hour in income is not something that you should be saying yes to. You either need to have it done by somebody else that you pay a lesser hourly rate of pay so you can do more high value activities on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, or you need to not do it at all or streamline it some way through technology or some other types of efficiencies. And all the successful people in sales inherently understand this. They're consistently refining what they choose to say yes and no to, consistently evaluating it through the process of logging their time and looking at how they can offload activities that are effectively lowering their hourly rate of pay. So again, it's driven by fear. We oftentimes will say, but I have to do that because if I don't do it, nobody else is qualified to do it. Now that's a story. Okay, that's the fallacy and that's the big mistake. Just because you're the only qualified person on your team or you think you're the only qualified person on your team to do that activity doesn't mean you should be doing it. It means that you need to take a step back and seek to find other people to do that activity for you. Again, until which time you start choosing only into activities that support the hourly rate of pay that you're seeking to earn, you will not earn that hourly rate of pay. But let me tell you, if you start to get vigilant with this and start to say yes only to the things that would support that hourly rate of pay that we've defined of $100 an hour, watch out, because you're going to earn way more than $100 an hour because you're going to focus solely on money-making activities. So the mind's fear that it conjures up, the stories that we tell ourselves that if things don't get done by me. They won't get done correctly. They won't get done at all. Something will fall through the cracks. I'll lose my reputation. That's the battle that we're trying to win on a consistent basis between the years. Now, let's look at it through the lens of our personal life. I know a lot of people who make a lot of money, but don't have a lot of free time. They're not particularly present with their family. They don't have a lot of balance in their life. They don't have a connection with their spouse or their children. They don't have any hobbies. Now, this is directly related to an evaluation of time through an inaccurate lens. We have to ask ourselves the question, what do we want in our experience of life? Do we want to be able to have, to be on that softball team that plays every Thursday night? Or do we want to make sure that we go to our kids' school and volunteer in their class? Do we want to make sure that we have a certain number of days out of the year where we're taking time to connect with ourselves and with our family on vacation? See, if we're aimlessly saying yes to things out of fear, out of worry that it won't get done correctly, then the subsequent result is that we will consistently be saying yes to the wrong things. And it will not only affect our hourly rate of pay, but it will affect other aspects of our life that we deem to be important to us. So this is why the highly effective time and task managers that I know are crystal clear on the things that they want in their life, that they want to experience, and they make them a priority. So with that said, as a backdrop, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about how you manage your time. So if you don't have some kind of a task capturing tool that is not your brain, then that's the first place to start. So the mind is built to be strategic. The mind is built to think into the future, to plan ahead, but it's not built to hold a whole bunch of things in its container for extended periods of time. That's where anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and things of that nature come from. Those of you that have a difficult time sleeping at night because you can't turn your brain off, that's because you have too many things racing through your brain. You're trying to hold on to too many things and try to make sure that you don't forget them. I mean, how many times have you had this happen? You're driving home from work, maybe you put some music on, you're getting ready to settle in with your family, and then a thought pops into your head, oh shit, I forgot to return that phone call. Well, it shouldn't be sitting in your brain. It should be in some type of a task capturing tool. Now, I don't care if you go low tech, like I used to with a yellow legal pad on your desk, or if you go high tech and you use something like Microsoft Outlook or Todoist or Slack or one of these other platforms to organize all the things that you have to do. As I mentioned before, I use Todoist. Okay, so that's a terrific resource that you may want to check out. You can watch tutorials on Todoist on YouTube, etc. And if you go back to my previous episode of the 360 Experience podcast with the brilliant time management coach, David Allen, you'll learn a lot about some of the topics that we're talking about here that I won't cover today. But I want you to think from the perspective of inboxes. So you have numerous inboxes in your life. By definition, an inbox is a place that needs and tasks come into. Sometimes you're driving the needs and tasks into the inbox, and sometimes somebody else is. So your email is an inbox. Your text feature on your phone is an inbox. Your voicemail is an inbox. These are all things that people are dumping things into that need to get done. But the biggest inbox that we all have is our brain. Because statistically, and you may have heard me say this before, we have between 60 and 90,000 thoughts a day. And a lot of times these thoughts are, oh, I need to remember to do this. I need to remember to run that errand. I need to make sure that I get to my kids' dance recital this afternoon, etc. But your brain is only capable statistically of holding somewhere between 10 and 12 conscious thoughts at any one given time. Once you get past 10 to 12 conscious thoughts, they go into your subconscious mind. And that's where things pop up when you're in the shower and you realize that you forgot to do something yesterday. And then that creates stress and anxiety for you, doesn't it? So the key is to get everything out of these different inboxes and into one system, one dashboard that tells you at all times everything that you have to do. Now, if you're a member of the Loan Atlas, there's tutorials that I take you through and that Julie takes you through that create visuals for you that show you how to manage these tasks and manage these various inboxes. And if you're a member, I highly recommend that you go and you watch those videos. They're super valuable and super important. So for me, it's real simple. If I have a thought of something that I need to do, I don't let it just ruminate in my mind and hope that I remember it later. That's kind of crazy if you think about it. That's not a very effective system for managing your time and tasks. What I do is I get it out of my head and I put it into my system. And again, my system is Todoist. And I live in Todoist all day long. Whenever I have free time, I'm looking to see what it is that I have to do. And what I have to do are a variety of things that have come up over the last several days. Let's say you're in a meeting. I was in a meeting the other day with several of my colleagues, and we were masterminding on some things for my business, the Loan Atlas, and they were coming up with some brilliant ideas. Now, I could sit there and make notes of them in my phone or write them down on my yellow legal pad. But ultimately, where those ideas belong in order for there to be effective execution of those ideas is in one place, which is in my dashboard, which once again is in Todoist. So I simply take out my phone and I put these ideas into this one central repository. And if you have a central repository where you hold all of the things that you need to do and it's done in an organized way, then you can make effective, unemotional, intelligent and wise decisions as to where you effectively spend your time. So on a daily basis, once again, throughout the day, I'm looking in my Todoist and seeing, okay, I have a 30-minute drive right now. What phone calls do I need to make while I'm on that drive? I don't have to try to remember what phone calls I need to make. Maybe yesterday I thought of somebody that I needed to call that's an old friend that I haven't talked to in a while. Now, I could leave it in my brain once again. I know I'm being redundant, but I'm wanting to really hammer this point home. I could leave it in my brain once again and hope that I remember the next time I have some free time to call that person. Or I could put it into my calls category in Todoist. And then when I get in the car and get ready to drive, I could just simply take out my phone and say, well, who do I need to call? It's sitting there and waiting for me because I haven't been trying to hold on to it in my head. I got it out of my inbox that is my head and into my system. Those of you that have, I always dread and feel sorry for the person that I call and it says, this mailbox is full and is not receiving any more messages. Well, that's a red flag alert that this person is using their voicemail system to hold a whole bunch of calls that they need to return. And as we know, that's not a system that has a lot of visibility, right? I mean, you might have 20 voicemails sitting in there and you can't really segregate them and determine which ones are the high path ones. I simultaneously get really stressed out for people that have, a couple of hundred emails in their inbox in their email. That's not an effective way of managing your time and tasks. What's going to end up ultimately happening when you manage your time that way, and I'm going to say this very slowly, this is a David Allen quote, is that you will end up migrating to whatever is screaming at you the latest and the loudest. Now, that is not an effective way of managing your time. You don't want to be reacting to fear-based thinking and whatever is screaming at you latest and loudest. You don't want to be like, oh shit, I got to go do this right now. No. You want to have it organized and categorized in a way to where you have the things that are a priority for you at the top of the list. So when I manage my time and tasks, I have different color coding. So I know that my red activities are my highest priority activities. That's all I look at all day long. And as they get completed, I check them off the list. Now, I want to talk with you about the subject matter of momentum for a moment, because this is an important topic. So I remember vividly back when I first started in my entrepreneurial endeavors, maybe 30 years or so ago, that I used to use a yellow legal pad. And anytime I'd retrieve a voicemail and I need to call this person back, I'd write their name down and their phone number on the yellow legal pad. Or if I had a thought of something I needed to do and I couldn't do it right now, I'd write it down on my yellow legal pad. Or if one of my work colleagues asked me to do something and I couldn't do it in this moment, I'd write it down on my yellow legal pad. And I would have it visible right there in front of me. And this is fine. I mean, this is not as sophisticated as using an electronic version of this, such as Todoist, but it's better than trying to keep it in your head. So all day long, I'd be looking at this yellow legal pad, and my job would be to try to get as many of these things done on a daily basis as possible. Now, I remember vividly that when I would get something done, I would draw a line through it. And every time I would draw a line through it, I would feel this surge of momentum, this surge of accomplishment. And at the end of the day, I might look down at my yellow legal pad and maybe I had 30 things on it and 24 of them have been crossed off, and I would feel good about myself. I'd go home and I'd be like, I got a lot done today because I could visually see all of these tasks that had lines drawn through it. But if you're not doing something like that, and by the way, there's a lot of statistics that have been coming out lately about the importance of having that in front of you, having that visibility around what you've accomplished. Because when you think about it, it makes sense. If you don't have that, and you go home and you're leaving the office and you're ending your day, and all you're left with is the thought of the things that you wanted to get done but you didn't get done. That's a very different experience from the perspective of momentum versus if you're looking down at this list of a whole bunch of things that you accomplished where you feel good about yourself. Whatever I didn't get done that day would be the list for tomorrow. And that list, of course, all day tomorrow would grow as things would come up. And I would document them. And my job, again, the next day would be to try to get as many of them done as I possibly could. So that actually leads me to another important component of time management, which is that you should end your day by doing a review of the things that you need to do tomorrow. Okay. And I know far too many people who don't do that. They don't set themselves up for success. They come into their office, they turn on their computer, they look at their inbox and their email. They've got 200 emails sitting there. It creates visual overwhelm because there's no way you're going to get all that done. They haven't written down the things that they need to do for the day. They're still holding them in their head. They've got 14 text messages. They've got 7 voicemails to listen to. That's no way to start your day. Your goal should be to have your inbox and your email, by the way, at 10 or less at any given time. I mean, that's actually too many for me. I mean, right now, before I recorded this episode, I looked at my inbox. I have 3 emails in there. That's it. And they shouldn't even be in there. That's the truth of the matter. I'm coming clean with you. They should be actually in my Todoist in this one central dashboard. I mean, you really ultimately want just one place that you're looking at on a consistent basis for the things that you need to do. So if you're not organizing all of your tasks, then you're ultimately making decisions based upon the emotions of fear and the emotions of what you're worried about. And then you're making unskilled, unwise choices. And that's what ends up resulting, once again, in the rocks not getting done and you're playing in the sand and working on pebbles and sand all day. And that's absolutely the wrong path to go down. Now, let's talk about your calendar. Okay. And then I want to talk about time blocking, and I want to talk about on time, because these are all important topics. And if you're not familiar with on time, I'll explain what that is in a moment. So your calendar, in my mind, is a place that you should only be putting specific appointments, and sometimes those are appointments with yourself, specific appointments with specific people that need to take place at a specific time. You won't find my calendar filled up with a whole bunch of tasks that I need to do unless those tasks have to be done at a specific place and a specific time. So if I need to go to a doctor's appointment, that's going to end up in my calendar. That's a task that needs to be done at a specific time. Okay. But I'm not going to have in my calendar to, call my real estate agents. I might have in my calendar to practice a presentation that I'm doing. I might have in my calendar to record this particular episode of the 360 Experience, which I had in my calendar because I want to block that time and hold it to be sacred. But be careful about filling up your calendar and making it too full, because that creates an unrealistic set of circumstances. So let's talk about time blocking. So there are a lot of people that I know that have attempted time blocking and have found it to be very difficult to do correctly. And what I always hear as the experience is, I block hours of time in my calendar for important things to get done, but I never end up doing it and I blow it off. Okay. If you've had that experience, that means that you are blocking too much time and you're not allowing for enough time for you to react to the everyday requirements of life that are going to come at you for sure. And one of the things that whenever I time block, so for instance, I record this episode of the 360 Experience. It's going to take me about an hour. On the backside of my block of time to record this episode, I will have at least a half an hour, if not an hour, of white space. What is white space? White space is uncalendared time, like free time. Now, why do I have at least an hour or a half hour at least, and maybe as much as an hour behind the hour of recording this episode? Because I know that when I'm done recording this episode, I'm going to have emails that I need to read. I know that I'm going to probably have some text messages that I need to look at. And I want to be realistic with the amount of time that I'm blocking so as to not set myself up for anxiety and failure. If I block an hour to do this show, and then right after that, an hour for a lunch appointment. And then right after that, I block an hour to consult with a client. And right after that, I block an hour to create some additional content. I'm going to run a great risk of blowing off one of those time blocks because my worrisome, fear-based mind is going to kick in. I'm going to wonder what's going on in my email inbox, my cell phone inbox, my voicemail inbox, all these different types of things. And the inbox of my head where other thoughts and strategic things that I need to do are going to pop in. And I'm going to migrate to those things because I don't have some open space to deal with them. So my rule is always, if I schedule an hour of time, I always have at least 30 minutes to an hour of free time to play in the sand on the backside of that rock. And then I might have another hour of scheduled time. Another example is that, I coach clients every Wednesday. And my calendar is open for them to schedule with me. But what I will never do is coach more than 2 clients in a row without having an hour of free time on the backside of that for the same reason, because I know that I want to bring presence to my coaching sessions with my clients. I don't want to be worried about what's piling up in my inboxes that people are dumping things into all day long and during the course of my coaching sessions. And in order for me to be present, I need to know that, don't worry, in 30 minutes, you have an hour of free time to play around in the sand, to respond to whatever's waiting for you, and to get back to people. So be realistic with your time blocking. I want you to think about it for a minute. Like if you just committed to 2 1-hour blocks a day, 5 days a week, so 10 total hours of completely focused money-making activities, things that are important in your business, and you got that done religiously, and you knew yourself as being an action taker, somebody who schedules something and acts on that scheduling, what would the momentum feel like at the end of that week? You'd look back on your week and you'd say, wow, like I got a lot of good things done. I built out that marketing strategy. I met with my team on a subject matter that's really important to the evolution of our business. I prospected and called all of my leads for my business in these 2 different 1-hour blocks this week, and I got a lot done. It doesn't require you to be working on rocks 40 hours a week. I mean, ultimately, that's the goal. I mean, the successful business people are ones who really spend most of their time working on high payoff activities, but you got to start somewhere and you got to build that momentum. And the way that you start somewhere is by committing to 2 1-hour blocks a day, 5 days a week, to doing nothing but money-making, high payoff activities that you've deemed to be warranting of your hourly rate of pay that you desire. And then what'll happen is you'll start to do more business in whatever business you're in. You'll start to make more money. You'll start to continue to refine your job description. You'll start to offload some of the lower payoff activities to somebody else that you've hired to handle them for you at a lesser hourly rate of pay than what you're making. And before you know it, over the course of months and years, you'll be at a place where you are working predominantly on high payoff activities. Now, the next topic that I want to talk about is on time. Now, what is on time? On time is working on your business rather than in your business. So taking 2 steps back and having some time to strategically think about the things that you need to work on to improve your success in your business. So I first found out about the subject matter of on time many years ago now, 30 years ago, back in 1995. And I embraced it fully. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to schedule a 6 hour block of time consecutively, one day a month, where I would leave my office. I was at a physical office, not working from home like I do now. But if you're working from home, then maybe you need to leave your home office and go to an offsite location. Your environment is very important to the commitments that you make. So I knew that a healthy environment for me to getting strategic thinking done, working on marketing strategies, working on my presentation to clients, working on the systems that we're creating for customer service. I knew that the healthy environment for me to do that in was away from the office, because the office environment's too seductive. There's too many people there that could come and interrupt me. There's the seduction of checking my email, the seduction of checking my cell phone. And what I would do is I would turn my cell phone off. I would go to Barnes and Noble, which was the local brick and mortar bookseller in my community at the time. They had a good coffee bar there. It was a quiet environment, almost like a library. They had nice sofas there. Take my backpack, and I would go for 6 hours. I would put my out of office on my email and on my cell phone. And I would just simply let people know where I am, which is very important. Let me actually touch on that for a moment. If you don't make people aware of where you're at and when you'll be getting back to them, then your mind's going to worry that there's something waiting for you that's pressing and that somebody's going to be disappointed in you. So my out of office would simply say, thank you for your email. Today is, Friday, February the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm at an offsite location working on systems of customer service to improve our business platform. I'll be out of the office from the hours of 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. and returning emails and phone calls at 4 p.m. promptly. Please let me know where I can reach you at that time. If it's something urgent, you can call our front desk and talk to my personal assistant, Fern, and she can help you. And this would relieve my worrisome mind, my fear-based mind, of thinking that I was disappointing someone. And invariably what would happen is I'd come back and people would leave messages saying, hey, that's so cool that you do that. I need to do that too. I think that's really important that you get away from your business to work on it. So on time is blocking a certain amount of time on a monthly basis to get out of the business and to work on improving it strategically. And you need to be doing that. Now, another thing that I want to encourage you to consider as it relates to the prioritization of your time is to start your year with some personal goals that are non-negotiable. So for me, this may seem extreme, but it was my reality and it was great, was I wanted to commit to taking 8 weeks vacation a year. So I only wanted to work 44 weeks. I wanted to get all of my work done in those 44 weeks and have 8 weeks where I love to travel. So I go to, places like Hawaii and stuff like that with my family back then. And I didn't want to be on the grid. I wanted to be completely unplugged. Now, I found that the most effective way to execute on that, you can go into the year with that as your goal, but life takes over and stuff starts happening and things that seem urgent start to come up and we start to abort just like we do with the time blocking. And before you know it, the year's over and we took 2 weeks vacation. And I realized that I didn't want to leave that to chance. So what I did was I would book those vacations well in advance. There was a period of time in my life, I live a little bit more spontaneously now, but I still do this as a matter of habit. But there was a time in my life where you could say to me in January, where, do you have any vacations planned next November and December? And I'd say, yes, I do. And here's where I'm going. And here's the dates I'm going. And it's already booked. And this is the hotel that I'm staying at. It was locked and loaded. So I have taught this to a lot of my clients, and it really works very well for them. Scheduling those non-negotiable appointments with yourself and paying for them to create leverage. See, there's no getting out of it once you've paid for the airfare and once you paid for the hotel. So if you have an intention, as an example, to have one staycation a quarter with your spouse, my suggestion would be to book those 4 staycations for the next 12 months, find your Airbnbs where you're going to stay the one night, and pay for them now. You're not going to abort once you've paid for it. If you have an intention to have a date night with your spouse, 2 Fridays a month, My suggestion would be to schedule those 2 Fridays a month now for the entire year. Contact your sitter that's going to watch your kids and pay them all in advance if you can right now, or at least pay for them for the first quarter. Because once you've paid for it and you have it scheduled, it becomes very difficult once again to blow it off and abort, and you will follow through. So you got to know yourself well enough to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. For me, I knew that if I didn't get it booked and get it paid for, that it might not get done. So I created some security around that. Another thing that I've been personally working on lately is with my coach, his name is Nick, is my ability to overcommit. I will admit, and maybe some of you can relate, that I don't like disappointing people. I like to be the hero. I like to be the guy that everybody looks at and says, wow, I mean, I can really count on him. He gets a lot of stuff done. And I know I can rely on him. It feels good to know that I'm reliable. But there's a trap there in that, which is that if I'm not careful, I can aimlessly say yes to every request that people have of my time because I don't want to disappoint them. In fact, I'll go a step further, and this is super vulnerable, but maybe you can relate to this. What I'll end up doing if I'm not careful is I'll say yes to far too many things. Then my calendar will be filled up and I'll feel a lot of anxiety, and I'll be looking at the things that I have to do. And I'll actually be angry with the people that are requiring my time, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because they asked me to do something and I said yes, and now I'm angry with them. So one of the things that I've been working on with my coach is a pattern interrupt. And that pattern interrupt is he suggested to me, he goes, I want you to say no at least 2 times for every time that you say yes to something. And I found this to be an incredibly important thing for me to do. And I couple it with a script that I want to suggest to you that I think that you'll find to be very effective. So one of the things that we want to do to make sure that we are evaluating our time and tasks accurately and committing to only things that we want to be committed to that will be enhancing to our business and our life is we want to slow everything down. We all have the ability to react quickly and to react based upon the latest and loudest and to react based upon the fear of disappointing. So I needed to build a mechanism in there to slow everything down and to buy some time. So oftentimes when somebody will ask me to do something, I had somebody a couple of days ago, it was this person's birthday. I texted them happy birthday. They texted me back, thank you so much. By the way, I want to run a business idea by you and I could really use your advice. Now, this person isn't a client of mine, so I have no obligation to them. I want to be a good friend, but is it a hell yes? I don't know. I don't know that it's a hell yes. I mean, I want to be a good friend, but I've got other things that I'm responsible for that really definitely take precedence. So in this particular case, I just bought myself some time and I responded and I said, I'd love to be able to help you. Let me take a look at my calendar. I'm really working on not overcommitting my time right now and creating anxiety for myself and running the risk of disappointing someone because I'm not showing up fully. Can I take a look at my calendar and can I get back to you next week and let you know some times that I'd be available here in the next couple of weeks? And his response was, sure, absolutely. Thank you. Now, sometimes the response will be something along the lines of, wow, that's really great that you're doing that. I need to do a better job of that too. Thank you for sharing that with me. Never do I get, no, that's not okay. I need you to give me your calendar right now and let me know. And by the way, if you ever do get that, that's probably not somebody that you want in your life anyway, because they're not showing any respect for your desires to manage your time effectively. So slowing it down and not feeling the need to automatically respond with yes will really help you a lot. And using that script will as well. And sometimes I've had to come back to people and say, you know what? I'm really booked for about the next 30 days and I can't commit my time to you. I'm really trying to be vigilant with how I manage my time. I hope you can respect that. Reach back out to me in 30 days and we'll see if we can get something scheduled. About 50% of the time, the person doesn't even reach back out to me again. Now, I don't know if it's because they're angry with me or because they've gotten their problem solved by somebody else. But regardless, again, going back to the top of the conversation, you need to be vigilant managing your time and only you can manage it. and getting clear on what you say yes to and what's important and what you need to say no to and why you're saying yes to the things that you need to say no to is really the black belt work associated with time and task management. So this is an overview for you. I hope that you found this to be valuable. I hope that you got some great tips and strategies. Again, if you're a member of the Loan Atlas, I mean, this is 1 hour of content. The Atlas has 5-6 hours with visuals and all kinds of strategies and tools to use to manage your time effectively. Go check that out. I want to thank you for listening to the 360 Experience podcast, and forward this on to a friend if you think it could be helpful to them. Have a great day.